In this video, we will take a deeper look at relationships. So you came to the right place when you either want to attract the right relationship for you, or if you are in a relationship and you want to transform your current one. Either way, the points I brought you will definitely make a better partner out of you, and they will increase your awareness. Hello, I'm David, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I brought you 7 questions of different key areas within your relationship that is, in my opinion, very valuable if you manage to really look into them. It could be triggering or uncomfortable for a few of you. I'm very sorry about that. But when you're truly doing the inner work, some discomfort is unavoidable from time to time. But I always think about it like that. The more I work through my baggage on my own, the less it will manifest within the relationship later. So that directly brings me to point number 1. Do you maybe have to deal with your own stuff first? Are you always attracting the same kind of relationships with the same kind of problems? The universe will give you the same lesson over and over and over again until you understand it. Do you always attract emotionally unavailable people? That could oftentimes be a sign that you are emotionally unavailable, because we attract what we are. Oftentimes we just replay familiar energy dynamics, those that stem from childhood, especially with the parent from the opposite sex. Then we attract a partner that recreates this familiar energy dynamic from childhood. And think even about the word familiar. It sounds like familial. And it doesn't even matter if this relationship is healthy or hurting us or very painful or even re-traumatizing us. The fact that it is familiar will attract it back in our lives. So these energy dynamics will be a reoccurring pattern if you do not work through them. So I give you an example from my own life. Okay, I hope I'm not boring you with my personal stories, but I think that's just helpful to bring these ideas into perspective. Okay, so yeah, I grew up without a dad, so I only had my mom, and she's a great mom, you know. She really did everything she could to make sure that I got everything I need. But you know, she was just a human as well, and she was a workaholic, so she was working 12 hours every day, and her work was that of a Jungian psychiatrist, which is a very rough job, you have to understand, because when you are constantly engaged with so much pain from your patients and so much misery, you have to build up some walls in order to protect yourself. Otherwise, especially because she's an empathic person, it would get like all in her system, you know, and it would be too much. So she had to build up some walls to protect her. But then, you know, when this is basically your default mode of your personality every day for 12 hours, 8 hours sleep, you know, there is like 4 hours left. In that 4 hours, when we've been together in the evening, then she couldn't put off that personality, and everything was very cold in our household. So what was my experience then is I was feeling extremely lonely, so lonely that I ran away from home when I was 14, you know. And I mean, nowadays I understand my mom was just having to deal with her own stuff, and she did as best as she could. But you know, this energy dynamic was, she loved me, but she couldn't show it. And this certain dynamic, it, like clockwork, repeated in at least 10 relationships in my life. I really had to look deep into my soul and work through it to change it, at least a little bit. I haven't worked through it completely, but yeah, it's gotten way better at least, and I'm attracting way healthier relationships by now. But I haven't gone through it fully yet. This is a process that is, yeah, it's just engraved so deep, So every once in a while, I feel I get a big chunk out of it, and with every relationship, I realize, yeah, it gets healthier and more authentically and more honest. But that's still for me my stuff to work through. And yeah, it was always very painful, because when you're always just getting like love, but there was always something that holded her back. That was, yeah, always like mixed signals. And by now, for the sake of my own mental health, I take mixed signals as a no. And there is nothing else, But, it can get frustrating after like the 15th time. But yeah, this is just my experience with dating. But yeah, as I said, I'm still in the middle of this process, but I'm on it, and I will tell you in the future as soon as I completely understood how to handle it. I think YouTube even doing this and sharing myself vulnerably and authentically is already a big part of the healing journey. But yeah, that's what I mean when I say maybe you have to work through your own stuff first. So try to examine it. Does it generally feel easy, or is always something in the way? How do you feel when you're apart from each other? Do you just want to see the other person again, or are you feeling you're drifting away? Just take this reminder: the universe will never give you peace in anything you were never meant to settle in the first place. Point number 2, what kind of person are you becoming in that relationship? Examine it with an honest look. Who are you turning into? Are you developing into your higher self? Or is this relationship dragging you down, holding you down? Is your partner encouraging you to go to the gym? Or is he making you watch movies with them and eating potato chips and getting fat? Are you working towards your dreams? Or are your dreams suffering? Is your business suffering? Is your health suffering? You should take an honest look on all these areas and have an honest look about, do you like the person you are next to your partner? Or do you become controlling or anxious, or do old patterns reoccur that you thought you have been worked through long ago? Those are all signs that you should be aware of, or at least that I'm aware of. Point number 3, are you too attached, or do you feel resistance? What could potentially mean that your partner is too attached? One reason for that might be that one of you has already created an illusion about your future, a story that is nothing else but a story. But this story becomes so huge and so important for us that we fill it up with a lot of pressure and resistance and importance. So think about that. Relationships form the basis for meaning in our life. So when we put then all this meaning onto this other person, we create a lot of pressure, and we create an idealized image, one that our partner could never live up to. And of course, they shouldn't even attempt to try to live up to it. Because at that point, the ego already took over and run its program. It basically says, I want you to be this certain way because this is what I always wanted and what I always dreamed of. And this would be the best for me, what it usually isn't. But you couldn't do a bigger disservice to your relationship. Because everything our limited ego could come up with is just so inferior. It's not even in the same ballpark compared to a relationship that has unfolded and grown organically. The magic and beauty that comes up with that. And the trust that builds over time, the deep acceptance, curiosity for the other person, amongst many other things, of course. But as I said in earlier videos, the ego is a good servant, but a terrible master. The same goes for the mind as well. It's a great tool, but it can be very destructive. And that's what oftentimes happens, you know? Relationships collapse under that resistance. And then you lose all the meaning you assessed with it. All your big stories and the plans for the future gone. And that's like you lose a part of yourself. And that's why it hurts so much when a relationship ends, because you basically lose a part of yourself. You know, you have the meaning to begin with. That's what you should be aware of. Nothing has a built-in meaning other than the meaning we give it. And that's cool because it empowers you. So maybe you can examine your life again and check, where have I tested too much meaning right now? And try to bring your energy back and see how magnetic you become and how people all of a sudden want to attach to you, or how an outcome finally finds its way into your life as soon as you have detached. Letting go is truly a superpower, and you will do such a big service to your relationships if you manage to get rid of this resistance, you know, and finally get free again. And oftentimes it's even the case, when you let go of a person you once wanted, then they will reach out to you. But you have to be aware that you cannot let go in order to attract someone, because that would be a conditional letting go, and that wouldn't be letting go at all, you know? So the key really is to let go for good and for you, because it will make you free again. Point number 4, compatibility. Are you truly being compatible? And people always say it's good when you're different because then you balance each other out. But I feel like if you're too different on fundamental points in your relationship, it will definitely create disharmony further down the road. You know, like you could go from a psychologist view and put the 5-factor ocean model. I will put it to you here. With you know, what is that you don't want to be too far away on opposite sides of the scales in those 5, in too many of those 5 areas, you know. But then you got things like values. I think it's very important that you share the same core values. You know, of course you're different and you will disagree on a few things, but I think like the core values are very important. Then things like lifestyle. Do you have the same lifestyle, or more or less? Things that you could share with each other, you know? Do you have certain same experiences, you know, which define your worldview? Are you similar on that front? Are you having, you know, problems with their friends, or do you like their inner circle, you know? That's always a sign, a very strong sign for me. Like if I don't like their friends, because you are, you know, the mix of your 5 closest people, everyone says, and yeah, that's a very strong sign that there will be coming something after the honeymoon stage. And how are the fights? Are the fights actually leading to a conclusion and to a change of the situation? Point number 5. What happens when you express your true desires and become vulnerable? Do you even feel safe to do that? Is your relationship orchestrated in a way that you can express your true desires? Or do you constantly have to hide something? You have to be aware, when you have to constantly have to hide something, that's nothing else but manipulation. It's the need to control how your partner perceives you, instead of sharing your true self. You know, sooner or later, you will show him who you are anyway, on purpose or not. You know, in a fight, a lot of things can come out. So by sharing yourself authentically, you are leading, which is always a good thing. Obviously, you don't want to address certain things too soon, but the devil is in the details here. But what I want to say is, when you express your true desires and become vulnerable and your partner doesn't like it, understand this is a good thing, because now you have clarity and you don't waste any more time with anybody who was never meant for you to begin with. You know, you have been yourself, you shared yourself authentically, and so be it. You know, now you can go to your next dating experience, which will be transformed. It will bring your dating game on a completely different level when you can be authentic. Everyone always says, just be yourself, just be yourself. That's exactly how. Point number 6. Are you having or aiming towards a conscious or an unconscious relationship? This concept I got from the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it describes the difference between a conscious relationship and an unconscious one. Most people live in unconscious relationships, where codependency, the ego, or unconscious patterns create regular conflicts. They try to fill an inner void with their relationship, but that's never going to work, because they attract their partner from scarcity, from a mindset of scarcity, instead of having a full cup. Remember, you always attract what you are. And when you attract a partner based on scarcity, this scarcity will manifest within the relationship constantly. So you will have an emotional roller coaster of highs and lows, a cycle of love and hate all the time. This, by the way, is a state where the ego thrives in. Partners in unconscious relationships oftentimes trigger the old emotional wounds from their partner, and they do this to each other. So by becoming aware of these patterns, you can transform this pain into spiritual growth and turn your unconscious relationship into a conscious relationship. In a conscious or awakened relationship, love arises from being in the present moment and not of ego neediness. The partners don't depend their fulfillment onto each other and live in a state of acceptance in which both partners can live their individual lives and unfold their natural way of being. This is a part of self-realization where both partners can thrive without attachments, unconditionally. So the whole relationship becomes like a spiritual practice. I really love this approach from Eckhart Tolle, because especially the conflicts they bring are a big part of this spiritual practice. And every conflict is viewed as challenge to overcome and lessen the power of the ego on the individual, and rather form a stronger unity after being able to overcome this conflict or this problem or whatever it is. So both partners manage to lessen the ego's influence and grow spiritually. And furthermore, they create a safe space for both partners to flourish and to actualize themselves. So they don't have the need to control or change the other person, but rather accept it. Accept everything about the other human being. And I always feel like in all my relationships, even if it's with friends or family or whoever, that I have to have and to give all the freedom to the other person or to myself to be able to completely be how I am. Only then really real love and trust can be there. And last but not least, point number 7, trust your gut feeling. What is your gut telling you? Is he or she maybe perfect on paper, but your gut constantly tells you there's something you don't trust or something else that is off, or maybe, I don't know, it's the smell, whatever. I can only speak from my own experience. Whenever I ignored my gut feeling, it was a big learning lesson, one that I had literally 100 times in my life so far. I keep sometimes, even though it's been way less, nowadays, but sometimes I do ignore it and I always regret it. Maybe regret is not the right word, because I learn from it in a way, and I get remembered. But trust your gut feeling. It's not there by accident. It warns you from dangerous people. It warns you from weird, smells in your food. It is there to protect you. So if there's something off, you definitely should take a second look into it. Even though the person is perfect on paper, you don't date a potential of a person. You date the actual person itself. Yeah. So those were my 7 questions, my 7 areas of relationships. I would love if you guys could give me some feedback, or if you give me your thoughts or wisdom on relationships. I think it's a very broad and fascinating topic. Obviously, you could talk about so many points here, but yeah, those were the points I focused on. Please give my channel a like, or give the video a like, and give my channel a subscribe. It really helps me to grow this whole thing that I'm doing here, and yeah, I would be very grateful for that. So I wish you all a great day, and I will link a video I made a month ago about the time when I lived in a forest for almost 100 days and my key learnings from that time. So thank you very much for watching, and namaste. Imagine sleeping every single night in a dark forest, alone. No walls, no roofs, completely exposed to storms, so falling branches, falling trees, wild nocturnal animals,